I'm going to go through a question on trial and improvement. Now, I've picked this particular paper because I noticed that there was a trial and improvement question on it. So this is question number 13. Now I'm going through all of the different topics that are expected to come up on Unit 2 for intermediate level. Now, obviously, I have a limited amount of time, so what I'm going to try and do is try not to talk as much as I normally would on things like this. But in fact, I'm just going to move it so it's at the right angle for me where I'm sat. But what I will do is tell you the things that are the most important for you to be able to do in that exam. So, trial and improvement. These questions generally are quite clear about what they want from you. So when you see a trial and improvement question, it basically says, you know, a solution of the equation, and you've got an equation there, so it's got some and equals something, lies between 2 and 3. And then it'll just say, use the method of trial and improvement to find the solution, correct to 1 decimal place. So just a quick bit of information about it. So in other words, when it says a solution, basically, normally you might get an equation and it'll say solve. So basically, you're trying to work out what value of x would make this equal 0. Now, we know it's between 2 and 3. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try a value, and I'm going to create a little table. So I'm going to put a value of x in here. I would normally put a ruler and create a table, but I'm just trying to do this reasonably quickly so I can get the most of the topics out to you. So we're going to try a value of 2.1. Now we know it's between 2 and 3, so we could just say, well, let's just work out the value of 2. But I know that value of 2 being put into there is going to be too small. So I'm just going to start with 2.1. Because I know I'm looking for a number that's either 2.1, 2.2, all the way up to 2.9. It's going to be one of those, and obviously the ones I've not written down there. And we have to work out which one of those gives us an answer that's as close to 0 as we can get. And what we need to do to get those 4 marks is, and I'm going to show you. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that value of x, 2.1, into here. So just to make it clear for you, that basically means that we've got 2.1 to the power of 3. Take away 8 lots of that same value of x, 2.1, or times, put the times in, plus 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to work out with our calculator what that is equal to. So 2.1. Now that button there with the x, with the block on the top, it means you can put in your own power. And then take away 8 lots of that x value, which is 2.1. And then we've got to add 3 to that. Now, there we get a value of minus 4.539. I'm just going to double check that because I think it's good practice to do that. And when it comes out as a fraction like that, you click on your S to D button. Now, there are newer formats of this particular calculator. Mine isn't next to me on my desk, otherwise I would go through that. But there is an option where it just says the format of the number, and you put the format of your answer as decimal. So that particular answer is, so I'm just going to write down here 4.539, and it's a minus, so I put that there. Now, my next column is it either too low or is it too high? Well, my answer needs to be 0. That's below 0. So I'm going to put in here too low. Okay, so therefore what I'm going to do now is put in a number higher than 2.1. So I'm going to choose, I could use 2.2. I'm actually going to do 2.3. Provided, a good rule of thumb is, if that's like very close to the answer that we're looking for, I would go to the one just above it or just below, depending on if it's low or high. But if you're quite a way off, just try one. You could try one a little bit higher. Okay, but as long as you go in higher. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have 2.3 to the power of 3, take away 8 lots of the x value, which is 2.3, plus 3, because the rule says I square the x value, I take away 8 lots of that x value, and then I add 3 to it. And what do I get? So I'm just going to do 2.3, Now, if I had time to edit these videos, I would just fast forward through this bit for you, but obviously I'm just trying to get it out. So look at my answer there. I press on the SD button. Okay, so we'll get a little bit closer to it. So the answer is minus 3.233. And that's where the trial and improvement is. You try a value of X, you look at the answer, and then you say, is it either too high or too low? Too high. Sorry, not too high, it's too low. Now, please don't write in this area. As somebody who is an examiner, you know, I can tell you that we get the scripts, but you cannot guarantee, because there's obviously a little bit of room for error when it comes to scanning papers in, because that's what happens. You just want to make sure that any working out that you've got is actually within the bounds of that square or sort of rectangle there. Okay. It may come through, but if you need to write something, please write it further down. Okay, leave a line. You can always ask for spare paper at the end, as long as you make sure you put your name on it at the end. Right, so if that's too low, I'm now going to try 2.5. Because if I'm too high, I'll do the one below it. So again, I'm going to write 2.5 to the power of 3, take away 8 lots of 2.5, because that's the value, and then plus 3. So I'm going to put that in again, 2.5 to the power of 3. And I always just do equals, don't need to. I'm just trying to do this quickly without making too many errors. Now, I would expect the number to get closer to 0 as I'm going. And at some point, I'm going to go above 0. But I've still not got there yet. So I'm still below 0. Okay, so I'm now going to try. I'm actually going to do 2.6 because I'm getting a lot closer to it now. So again, it says the value of X, we cube it. I'm doing this on purpose so you can actually see that sort of repetition of what I'm doing. So 2.6 to the power of 3. And I'm going to take away 8 lots of that 2.6. And then I'm going to add 3. Ooh, getting a lot closer, aren't we? Again, too low. Wonder if 2.7 then. Let's go for a slightly higher number. So 2.7 to the power of 3 equals, take away 8 lots of 2.7 and then add the 3. I've now got a number bigger than 0. So 2.7 cubed, take away 8 times 2.7 plus the 3, and I get an answer of 1.083. Too high. Okay. So therefore, my answer of 0 is between those two values there, yeah? Which means that my answer is somewhere between 2.6 and 2.7. Now, if this was a straight line, I could tell you, well, actually, that number is closest to 0, so therefore that's my answer. However, we cannot say that for certain when you've got a cubic. So what we've got to do is decide, well, is it closer to that one or that one? What we do is we look at the number in between, which will be 2.65. We know that when x is equal to 2.6, we get an answer of minus 0.224. When x is equal to 2.7, we get an answer in our equation is 1.083. So what happens when we put in a value of 2.65 into it? So 2.65 to the power of 3, and then we're taking away 8 lots of 2.65, and then the rule is add 3. Now, you can see straight away that's a positive answer. So it's 0.4096. Okay. So where is 0 there? Is 0 between the 2.6 and the 2.65 answers? Or is 0 between those two? Well, we can see that because it goes from being negative to being positive. 0 is somewhere in that middle there. Yeah? So therefore, we can say that the solution is closer to 2.6 than it is to 2.7. So therefore, our solution is x equals 2.6. There you go. Thank you very much. That is your trial and improvement video.